What is up, everybody?
Thank you. All right. Yeah. We like to kind of move on and fall into another groove out there, y'all.
Oh shit! Fuck that.
We like to do this for all the young ladies in the house out there. All right. Yeah.
Let me know who's in the building.
A tune called
Wait for everybody to come over.
While I'm Alone.
While I'm alone.
Baby.
I'm just waiting for everybody to start getting your ass over for BGS. We're gonna do a panel.
Do you love me, baby?
Bring your asses over.
Do you love me, baby? Then why you wanna go and leave me all alone? Ooh, baby. My lover.
Get your asses over here.
Baby.
Raise your hands if you want to get on this panel.
My lover.
We're gonna do this shit hot. Give me a woo if you in the building. Hey.
Don't you want to love you, baby?
Come on, man. We need some people to come over.
Ooh. La 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 la. I guess your weekend's over now. You'll have to make your way. Have to make your way. Had a ball of dynamite right from the first day. From the first day. Tell me that you're coming just as soon as you get home. To pacify my heart while I'm alone. I don't like being alone. Things we did this time of love, we've never done before. Need some changes in my head. I don't feel the same no more. Tell me it's not make believe this feeling I do so.
Come on, who wants to get on this panel?
I don't like being alone. Oh, no. Just think the time you left before it ain't burning up inside. Something I can't see no more, not for my foolish pride. Please give me all the time to what I want. To pacify my heart around my road. I don't like being alone. Yeah, I don't like being alone. Can't stop being alone. Oh, baby.
Get out. Woo! What's up? What's up? What's up? Man, I'm gonna post the link in the chat for the panel. Had to start it off, wait for some people. But I'm gonna tell you very quickly. There's the link for the panel. There's a lot of concepts that come to mind that black men do not comprehend. One is value. Black men do not value themselves in totality. I'm sorry. We will accept stuff that other races of men will will just say no, that's the line. That's unacceptable. That's no. The amount of disrespect from people, our women, our jobs. Oh my God, you McPanda Bear just showed you how much men do not understand certain concepts in our community, man. Anybody want to join this panel, you're free to join. Even if you don't even if you don't agree with me, you're free to join. But please, if you don't agree with me, please be able to properly articulate your statements. Please don't just be emotional. Don't just say it with the feelings. I mean, really, I just want you to really think about this, right? There's a reason why the Bible speaks in parables so people could get the gist of the story. When the guy was on the video and talked about pimp talk, he didn't say go out there and be a pimp. He says value. Everything costs. Everything costs. You got to understand something. Everything costs. When you're in a relationship, I've asked this question to so many women. What do I get for the cost of my life? Please tell me. What do I get for that? Do you see me as valuable? Do you am I going to get your devotion? Am I going to get your love? Am I going to get your respect? Because a lot of people are not going to get that. A lot of people are not going to get that. What's wrong with that? This is almost alien. This is alien to a lot of people, man. Let's see who we got in the chat. We got Sun is Hot Raw. We got the Macho Man, a Long Goose Sandwich. Oh yeah, Mr. Shug. If there's only but so much, Mike Johnston, Blood Boiling. Mr. Shug to you, Ray Stone, Jake from State Farm, LAPD's Swap One, excuse me. Who else is in the chat? Please, if I didn't get you because it's earlier, the stream y'all has only let me go up so poor man's passport. What do I get? Is it wrong for black men to ask their women, what do I get for the cost of my life? Because last time I checked, I got to protect you 24/7. CG, what's up? Mike Johnson said, I didn't realize the emotional labor that I gave out for free. I learned a lot in the black manosphere. Facts. See, a lot of dudes out there do not understand these concepts. We are supposed to die on our swords and not have a damn vote on how we should be treated. I mean, I want you to think about this, right? What's up, Sergeant Major? Airborne Ranger, where have you been? I've been around the world and back again. Think about this. What do I get for the cost of my life? AB Media, what's up? Come on, y'all need to share this. A lot of people don't even understand the concept of what do I get for the cost of my life. I'm not going to take your disrespect. I'm not going to take your contempt. I'm not going to take you just being insufferable. What do I get for it? I think a lot of brothers are afraid to even ask that damn question, man. I think you are. I think you truly are. We don't even get we don't even get, we don't even get the concept of saying, "Hey, I'm a man. I want to know what I get for the cost of my life. Do you respect me?" We don't even understand basic respect in relationships, in business, and people. It's foreign. It's foreign. Why? Because we don't think that we are worthy to be heard. We're always told that everything we give should be given without any type of respect, any type of knowledge, communication, and that goes to our detriment all the goddamn time. All the time. And for some reason, we wonder why we end up with the issues we have. We wonder why we're looked up as, oh, I don't have to ask anything for respect. I think that's a feminine thing. Really? So everybody and their mother get to say shit out of their mouth, but you're quiet. There's nothing required from you. I'll put the link up here if anybody wants to join. It's supposed to be an open panel just to discuss what we heard on BGS and other things, but I want you to think about this. We don't even know we have choice. We don't even know that we have a choice in the matter. I want you to know how sad that truly is, man. I'm back. I want you to understand how sad that is, man. Artist and MC, what's up, comic book bro? Gotta get your BlurCon next year. We give so much of ourselves that when do we have time for ourselves? When do we have time to relax, to enjoy life? When do we? When do we? So, are we valuable? Do we even have the do we even have the audacity to ask that question? I think I think there's too many of us that are afraid to really go in and ask that. What do I deserve? What do I deserve? For some odd reason, we're going through this troublesome life. Alongo said, "How many times do I have to say it? A lot of these B dubs are no better than the WS's, white supremacists they claim to despise when it comes to us. They have the same contempt, the same double standard, and the same hypocrisy." Facts. I don't want that to be. CG said, unlearning low vibrational concepts should be the start to learning high vibrational ones. But you got to understand, in order to fix your problem, you must know that you have one in the first place. How many times have you held your tongue when speaking with a lady so that's so that you could keep the peace? How many times have you quashed down family disputes? Talk to a chick down from the emotional ladder. You should do a broadcast on Machiavelli. I should, right? A man's worth has gone down as the price of pussy has gone through the roof. Actually, it's the opposite. The price of pussy has went down, and a man's value has gone through the roof because you know why? Females have started to learn it's very hard to live in a world where men are indifferent. When there's nobody coming to save you, what happens to Lois Lane if Superman says, fuck you? What happens? What happens when there is no Batman hovering over Gotham during the night? What happens if the Justice League or the Avengers take the week off? See, feminism has given women false bravado, false reassurance. What happens if there's nobody coming to your aid? And it's not just physical aid, it's mental aid, it's emotional aid, and spiritual aid. Everybody loves chaos until they have to deal with it. Everybody. Don't be afraid. Anybody want to join the panel? The link's in the chat. Like, share, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, definitely like it. A lot of black men do not understand safety. No, you should never be a physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual punching bag for anyone, male, female, or whatever damn sex they try to invent. You should never be. No, you should not. And I'm glad you put that in there. A lot of brothers are afraid of self reflection. A lot of them are. Ladies and gentlemen, AB Media. AB Media to the
Hey, what's
stage.
going on,
Woo!
fellas?
What's up, man? What's up?
Like you
A lot
said,
of brothers. Go ahead.
a lot of brothers don't value their emotional labor. And to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't for a while. I do now, but we're trained to take the shit of our women,
Yeah, we are. We're trying to take the shit of the entire world.
pretty much.
Our women especially. Think about it. We're the only type of men that when a chick's mad with us, we think she likes us.
Yeah,
That's a sickness, man. Remember
it
what I said?
really,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
it really is.
I want you to think about it, right? And I'm going to do this one day. I'm going to do a play by play of Steve Urkel. I'm going to do a play by play of Steve Urkel. And the reason why I said that is look at what Steve was doing for the entire Winslow family.
Oh yeah, that emotional labor was crazy.
Did he give emotional labor?
Hell yeah.
Emotional labor, although there were times when they would just look at him with resentment or contempt or annoyance. I mean,
Steve?
you know, let's be honest. Steve wasn't the most. Steve had his flaws as a person. At times he was sociable. At times he could be a little off-putting. But he was there when they needed him. But they didn't have. There were times when they did not consider his views, or unless it was under certain situations.
Unless they needed him.
Mm,
Yep.
Remember, Steve had nothing that was worth the Winslow family, with probably the exception of the grandmother, that anybody
Hmm.
respect. There were
absolutely.
episodes where Steve legitimately saved their lives.
Yeah.
Does Steve Urkel is a good analogy for the black man in America?
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to look at an educated lane, who else besides him and Carlton Banks?
Oh, don't even let me get into Carlton Banks.
Hmm.
Oh, don't worry. I don't want to do the Carlton dance anyway.
Oh, I'm gonna do Carlton Banks soon, and I like the Peacock version of Bel Air, but the
Uh,
things that I have. Here's my thing, because they always make the hood dude seem like he's accepted anywhere and everywhere. Let's talk
no,
That's all the
about
truth.
Will Smith's character in that show, both Bel Air and The Fresh Prince, the original show. In that high society, he would be an outcast.
Yes.
He would be looked at as a peasant, as a hood booger.
a nuisance,
He
a
would look like
pest.
he would not be this cool guy getting the best he would be is a concubine. Just a notch.
Ironically, you would be the Pookie Lane in that kind of circle.
He would be the Pookie Lane. You know why? I'm gonna tell you why. Right? There's certain etiquette you have to have in every environment you go, correct?
Correct.
Absolutely.
How the fuck do you think he would be if he's going to a ball? Do you think a nigga from fucking West Philly is gonna understand the concept of hand dancing, the Salic force?
No,
No. or how to properly eat at a table with the two forks and stuff.
Exactly. The difference between the dinner fork and the salad fork,
Exactly.
the placement of each, the conversations you're supposed to have, how to network with judges, senators, high tier businessmen, lawyers,
How to dress for the occasion,
how to dress, the difference between bros and what's the damn shoe?
like the difference between having wearing loafers or certain, Stacey Adams or something like that, or I think like where's it like what's her face there were Italian companies who do also make shoes, designer ones like D&G, uh, Armani. I think they did shoes as well. I mean, people forget
The difference
when
between bro versus an Oxford shoe, and,
ah
and there's a definite difference because an Oxford is probably the most formal shoe you can wear. Excuse me. Yes, an Oxford.
okay.
A lot of people don't know that. So when you take that, the Windsor knot, yes, double Windsor, single. So when you look at the Urkel concept,
Hmm.
Hmm.
when they're pushing him out the door, but nobody ever seen his value as a human being. They seen his value as a human doing.
Yeah, I still remember the episode where the only episode where he finally put his foot down with Laura. When they
Oh,
was
which
on
one was
that
it? Was
road,
it when they were like in a motel
when they
and
was on that
such?
road trip, and
Yeah,
because of his car broke down,
yeah, I
and
remember.
she tried to make him go sleep in that tub, and
Yeah,
he came back in and like, nah, you go sleep in that tub. I did all this for you, and you still complaining?
she gave him. She also had to give him. He had to wear one of her items to go to sleep in, which was embarrassing.
Oh, I missed that. But it goes back to that emotional labor that he went through.
And he forgave her.
Yep.
And that's the point that I get when I know this is a panel, anybody can join, by the way, to discuss the emotional labor and the cues that black men do not comprehend. So what I mean is this: black men have put themselves out into a world where I have value. You are no different than the slave who was emancipated after the Civil War.
Hmm.
Perfect example. What if all the slaves went to Liberia or Libya?
The United
Ooh.
States would probably collapse.
The United States will be a shit show third world country.
Mm.
That's what would happen. It would be a shit show because white people thought of them so superior that they need not understand the trade and the hard work and the labor and the technical wherewithal that black people obtained for generations. Think
Yep.
about
And for those of you who don't know, you have to understand. When they got rid of slavery, that was about 70 to 80% of the U.S.'s entire GDP.
it. Right.
If we all went to Liberia, United States would become, like Charles said, the United States would become a third world country overnight.
I
It
want you
would
to
have ended up being beholden to Mexico because Mexico would have expanded all over the entire West, all over the entire Western half.
That's true.
I want you to think about it, right? Liberia might have been a fuck close to a superpower on the African continent as anything. You know why? Because all your skilled people were going.
Hmm.
Of course, it would have been conflict in there because the indigenous tribes would have been looking at these people, these blacks, as outsiders and such. I'm not saying it's going to be. We cannot be. We can't just say it would have been like
It would have been.
smooth sailing.
It wouldn't have been. Well, it wouldn't have been like an easy transition,
Right.
No, it would not.
but it would have been closer to Wakanda than you think.
Perhaps.
Because guess what? The one thing that kept Africa the way Africa currently is what? Technical know how.
Yep.
Mhm.
If 85% of the inventions we use today are from the hands of black slaves and their descendants, what happens if you would have took all them motherfuckers there and we didn't have to deal with all that racist shit?
Well, first of all, you would have had a technical know-how, and given Liberia was a U.S. protectorate, nobody would have fucked with y'all. But you would have seen thousands of Africans from neighboring areas like Sierra Leone. Because remember, British held Sierra Leone would have been fleeing. Many people from Sierra Leone would have been fleeing into Liberia. People from other neighboring areas would have been fleeing just to avoid colonialism, or they would have tried to use those areas as bases for any type of resistance. Because you have all these Afro Americans, and let's not forget all those Afro Americans. If that happened there, considering the ripple effect you would have had also, because a lot of Afro Caribbean folks would have been demanding we get to go return to certain parts of Africa.
But you got to remember what happens if you would have brought all that culture, all the best and brightest there. People forget that shit. People forget that shit.
I did say the ripple effect
Oh yeah.
because because all those black folks from the U.S., if they all were repatriated en masse to Liberia, word would have got, people in the Caribbean would have caught wind of it, especially considering how many blacks were being undermined in places like Jamaica, the Bahamas, and everything. And the Brits were trying to undermine them by bringing in so many indentured slaves from India that they would have been like, well, let us return to our homeland. Let us go back
Hmm.
to other places. Like they
Uh,
would have said,
you did it for the Jews.
yeah, that's that.
You did it for the Jews.
The so-called Jews. Let me shut up.
The so-called ones. What's the reason why they told them you left black and you came back white? What the fuck was up with that? And I say this is because,
Somebody killed Rascast as nature is a threat.
and I say this because, and it's not even out of hatred. I just say, look, for so many decades, people talk about black men not having emotional intelligence.
Hmm.
But when you leave black men to their own devices, you get greatness. The only reason black men are not the most educated men on the planet is because you constantly fuck with them, United States.
Yep.
Constantly interfering in their ability to uplift themselves because at the end of the day, they view, and the narrative will always remain, that black men are a threat to the greater society. When the truth of the matter is, we are just simply, our excellence is seen as a threat to anyone unless it's being exploited, unless it's open for exploitation.
And it
You're pretty much.
reminds me of the short that I put up of Lisa Simpson and Millhouse. When Mills
Ooh.
dated another girl and Lisa was spying on him, and Lisa said, "Well, we could never work out because you're still in love with her." You know, Millhouse had a black pill moment, and he asked Lisa, "You don't want me to be with you. You don't want me to be with her. How miserable do I have to be before you're happy?" That's, in my opinion, is when Millhouse became a man that was worthy. Even though on the show he's still a boy, but
Yeah,
that's the equivalent of him becoming a man that was worthy of respect.
yeah, because I ain't gonna do it. You don't want to be with me. You ain't gonna say shit when I go somewhere else.
And then
You ain't saying
you
nothing.
you mess up the relationship I'm trying to have with another one, but you don't want me to be with you. How
She just
miserable.
wants you. What is it they say? Misery loves company. But it's like she doesn't want him, but she needs him like an orbiter of sorts. It's that virtual harem concept I remember you hear like in some red pill spaces.
But doesn't that sound like Laura Winslow?
Yep.
Oh, indeed it does.
When Steve been chasing you and chasing you.
Yep.
And what happened? Soon as he found his complimentary.
Who
Mm-hmm.
she actually hooked up. That's the thing. She introduced him to Myra. Because if you remember how they met, how they ended up, connecting. She pulled out an accordion. He pulled out his accordion. They had that accordion off, and next thing you know, they're making out, and Laura is
Yep.
watching this
And
from the kitchen, relieved, only to realize I just got rid of the best source of attention I've had in a long time.
yeah, and May Michelle Thomas, rest in power.
That's the way she rest.
Yeah.
And think about it. You know what really made Laura feel bad?
What?
There wasn't a goddamn thing she could say was wrong with Myra.
No, Myra's hotter. Yeah,
Myra,
I see it.
she was physically had a better shape. Her facial looks better. Her attitude was better.
She
She
had a
was
better smile,
better smile, better disposition.
Mm-hmm.
bubbly,
She was bubbly, lovely. Everybody loved being around her.
highly intelligent.
She was highly intelligent. She was literally, I can easily say, the equivalent of Steve in intellect.
Yes.
Multilingual, multifaceted. She
Multifaceted,
was.
multilingual, damn near omnilingual.
Yep.
Ooh.
Wasn't a language she probably didn't know. I want you to really think about this shit. As soon as you, as soon as you wanted this guy to get away from you, what's the old saying? I ain't shit till you need me, and also
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
don't miss something till it's what?
Gone.
Till it's gone.
I didn't realize this man was such an asset to my life. Gone.
Or they say in for professional wrestling, Charles, how can you miss me if I don't go? If I don't go away?
Think about that. You're right, Jake. His twin flame.
Ah, I like that.
Yep. Pretty much. Yeah.
Think about it. When you talk about emotional labor, it was so foreign to Steve at first that he was almost phobic when he met Myra. Phobic.
The way she clung on to him and such, the way she was enamored by him.
He
Mm.
loved his dirty drawers, not drawers, drawers.
Drowse.
There was
Let's take
nothing.
it back to the South, folks. Take it back to the South.
There was nothing that Steve wanted to do that Myra would not support. But the
Yep.
biggest hater on their relationship was not Steve or Myra. It was Laura.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this, and we talked about this the last time I had a show. Steve was a very honorable man.
Very.
Mm-hmm.
But
People
Eddie,
forget. People forget this one episode where there was a certain dude who a certain heartbreaker in the school, and Steve played mind tricks just to deter him. This was when Laura had her, I think, 15th birthday, something like that. And this other boy, this popular boy, who had dumped her friend Maxine, showed up and just wanted to say happy birthday and everything. And she was just glad that a boy gave her affection. The funny thing was, later that episode, when she was in her room, her mother, Harriet, asked her, "You feeling better? Why? What happened?" She said, "Steve chased away the most popular boy in school, Daniel Lewis." Harriet looked at her and said, "Isn't this the boy who dumped your friend Maxine a few months ago?" But yeah, I recalled you called him a this, that, and stuck up something pig boy. Immediately, when Laura answered, "Well, that was before. Now he likes me."
Oh boy.
You'd rather be with a heartbreaker than to be with somebody who cherishes you.
Yep.
not I said correctly. You'd rather be with the heartbreaker than the man who's willing to give you his heart. Damn.
Ah,
Somebody
thank
put
you.
that in the chat. Somebody write that in the chat for prosperity. You'd rather be with the heartbreaker than the man who was going to give you his heart.
Uh huh. Tell him that. Tell him that. Tell him that.
Yeah, been there, done that. I ain't doing that no more.
Well,
Somebody
I've
put
been there.
somebody play the church music. Come on, we need some church. We need some breakdown music for that shit.
I told y'all because I've told you I'm up
somebody
front.
get somebody get Jamie Foxx. And by the way, when you don't play that prayer music, play the offering music so we have everybody reach in the pockets.
I'm up front about it. I've been that beta male orbiter. That is not a fun play. The emotional labor I put into that heifer, oof,
Been there, done that.
never again. Never again. Nope.
If
Pretty much, yeah.
only we had Cole. If
That's
only
that
we had
praise
Cole
break.
Johnson up in here.
We call
Somebody,
it the praise break. That praise break dance.
somebody do the
You
praise.
remember hey, AB, do you remember like on Snowman in the Morning when Cole Johnson did playing the praise music, the praise dance and everything?
Mm-hmm.
That's good right there.
See, people don't understand when we use the phrase "educated lame." Do you know what you're saying in your brain constantly? That
Educated people are lame.
that intelligence is to be forgotten. Intelligence is not valued.
Right.
It's ridiculed.
It's ridiculed. There's disdain, contempt for your education.
Discouraged.
Especially if you black.
Because it's like
No,
the whole it's
that's
like the whole bookworm thing.
male.
No, that's true. If you're a black male, yeah.
Because
Well,
you got to remember, and that is true. Who said it? Son is hot raw. I didn't realize, but Steve could have had some of the baddest of baddies in that show. Remember when
Yep.
he was working in the fast food restaurant and that baddie kissed him? See, this is the part of the concepts that black men don't understand. Why
Mm-hmm.
chasing those who hate you when some of the baddest chicks love you?
shit.
Charles, hold on, wait a minute, Charles. Don't, please stop talking about that preacher's wife I let go. Like, oh, I'm still kicking myself for that one.
You know what I gotta play? You know what I gotta play for that one?
I'm still kicking myself for that one. And here's the funny part: she's now 40 and she's still fine. God damn.
Yes. Yes.
Ooh, I should have never let her go, man.
What would your life been with her though?
There's certain conversations me and Tigra, aka Dr. Goodbar, aka Dr. Dunbar, had while smoking cigars and drinking the finest of cognacs.
The
Who knows?
finest of
I may have
cognacs, he
been
says. The finest.
The
to answer
finest.
your question, neighbor. Who knows? I may have been a preacher. She was a preacher's daughter.
Oh shit. Instead of what you're doing now, you would have been you probably would have been a very wealthy man, making money off the church.
And you know what, Alongo, the macho man, Alongo Savage. Ooh, yeah.
Oh
It would
yeah.
have been kind of weird as hell having a B dub actually treat him like a human being instead of a human resource. Ooh, yeah.
Sweetheart
Yes,
too.
yes, we are
You ain't
focused.
got the intensity of it, Charles. No, no, you said it wrong. Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
You
it
need the
feels
more
weird.
intensity of it.
It feels weird when a BW makes you feel like the cream of the crop.
The cream. The cream of the crop always rises to the top. Oh, wow. Dig out. Sorry.
And, and it's funny because Steve Urkel is the example of the black male in America, more so than any other character in television history.
Yes, Lord.
Because when Steve left his environment, Steve was the most valuable man there.
Mhm.
I remember somebody tried to say, Charleston White tried to say, there's no such thing as a high value man. I like you, Charleston,
Bullshit.
shit for saying that. You know you're wrong. You wouldn't do what you were doing now if it didn't bring value. There are high value men. Like,
Charleston White,
yes,
that loudmouth. I mean, that motherfucker just says shit just to get attention. Why
exactly.
we paint that the way in mind?
Let me put you this:
Dr. T.
a
Yes.
black with a PhD, by the way. But
Exactly.
let's go even further. A black man with a STEM degree in pharmacology. The motherfucker was making COVID fucking cures. And I use the term motherfucker in a friendly, jovial sense, of course, Doc.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me a man with a PhD in pharmacology who's 6'3", 6'4", is not high value?
A
A
well-groomed, highly intelligent,
groomed, highly
knows
intelligent,
his craft, knows his wheelhouse, knows his
polished,
craft,
polished
polished.
is not high value? When I cannot pick, I even had to give a standing ovation and stop the music. And the Dr. Dunbar will tell you, I had to give a standing ovation, and everybody in the cigar lounge gave a toast to Dr. Dunbar for being the brother that he is. Because
Mm-hmm.
everybody was like, oh man, this well educated brother.
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
They were like, man, we to be in your presence is an honor.
Mm-hmm.
But how much praise do we give to our accomplished?
Not
That's
enough.
Very little.
You're right. When Steve went to college, he flourished. You know why? Because his intellectual prowess was valued.
Yep.
This was the environment where he needed to be.
Is my sound going in and out to anybody?
No, you're good. You're
Mm,
good.
you can,
So you got to understand, you take a black man outside of the black community,
Hmm.
there's nothing he wants. He just obtains.
mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
It's on tight.
There is nothing he cannot. When you get around people who flourish, think about
Mm-hmm.
it. Look at athletics. Let's look at Jordan Burroughs. He's from Jersey.
Hmm.
He went to Nebraska.
Cornhusker territory.
He won I think in his sophomore year he won his first NCAA title with 106, 145, 140 pounds, 145, somewhere like that. I forget the actual weight class.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Had a knee injury. I believe it might have been a ruptured ACL or a tear.
Ouch.
Came back his senior year, bigger, stronger, and won the NCAA title at 160, 165, something
Crazy.
like that.
Uh-huh.
Graduated from college, went to the world trials, won the world trials. Later, won the world championships his first year coming out. Not
Mm-hmm.
only that, because I forget how many guys actually won a world championship the same year they won their world title, a world championship with their NCAA title. Not only that, the next year in 2012 won a gold medal in the Olympics.
Mm.
He had to go outside of his environment to be the greatest. And now there's no argue because now he has the most world and Olympic titles. Just for those who don't know the sport of wrestling, an Olympic championship is on the same level as a world championship.
Hmm.
Some people value it, it can be valued even greater because you only can get one every 4 years. But guess
Mm-hmm.
what? He had to go outside his environment to be seen as valuable. Now he's one of the, if you have to make a Mount Rushmore of American wrestlers, he's on it without question. You can say Dan Gable, you can say John Smith, but your black ass better say Jordan Burroughs in that same conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when Steve went to college. He got outside of his. That's the reason why a lot of times it's best for a black boy when he grows into 18 being a man, he goes away for college. He goes away to the military.
Exactly.
That
Along,
environment, he can thrive. It's an environment where he can find himself. And plus, there are no distractions that could be to any detriment to him. And plus, you can wean him off any bad habits he may have developed.
yeah. Matter of fact, name it. Read Alongo's statement.
Never once saw any of the Winslow ever asked Steve, how he was doing or how his family was. Not his best friend Eddie, not even Carl Winslow, the cop who knows there's a minor living alone next door. Oh, no, no, no. Okay, all
Think
seriously, all kidding aside, all kidding aside. If you can bring it back, bring it back. Bring it up along those here. Never once saw any of the Winslow ever asked Steve how he was doing or how his family was. Not his best friend Eddie, not even Carl Winslow, the cop who knows there's a minor living alone next door. There's an episode I have to think of, I think of, where you have Carl dealing with his issues with Eddie regarding what Eddie wanted to be in his life, going into male modeling, going to stuff like that. He didn't understand that, but he thought maybe you could follow, join the force like myself. So he thought about having him come into a ride along. Instead, Steve, in a way, ends up joining Carl in a police ride along. And in this ride along, they ended up getting locked in a train cart with cows. And in there, they were having conversations about their families and such. And Steve actually gives Carl his flowers. Of course, Carl humbly says, "Well, I tried." And that's when Steve says, "Sometimes I wish you were my father." But Steve, you have your own father. And that's when they
Mm.
have the conversations about the importance of fathers Because like, it's so what's
I don't know about
exactly the
that
problem?
one. I know I'm being a little petty here, but I don't know about that one. Remember that he had a daughter that went in the room when you never saw her again. He ended up found out she was doing porn.
The
Oh, that was not Laura, the other one,
youngest sister that we shall not name,
youngest sister.
even though I'm
She's
still looking.
gone. Don't forget
What was her name?
also
I forgot.
another person who left the show was the aunts. You know, Richie's mom, Rachel. That was Harriet's sister,
Yep,
Yeah.
who owned the diner, who owned
the diner.
the, the diner and everything.
Yep. Richie grew up eventually.
Looking like Elder Barge. He grew up in that show, but Steve, you know, like I said, Steve was like, you know, people just, you know, because Steve just kept coming to the house. So whenever he
Hmm.
showed up, you know,
Oh
people
no,
was
he
like,
eventually ended up
the
living
way,
there. Remember?
huh?
He started living there. Remember?
Living there. There was that one time where he was on the roof. He stayed on the roof just to prove his love for Laura and such.
Oh boy.
I remember that. I mean, the funniest part was like, I remember was like, he ordered takeout. And I mean, the delivery guy came out. They knocked on the door. The delivery guy said, "You ordered Chinese?" Carl realized who it was. Said, "Up on the roof." The roof. And you know, the delivery guy was Asian, Chinese, and so started cussing in Chinese and whatnot. But the funny thing was that like Carl was like, he and Eddie went up to the roof, tried to convince him to come down. Said, "No, I'm going to be right here." And Carl said, "You know what? All right, you come when you're ready." Eddie was like, you know, looking at him and said, "Dad, why aren't you kicking Steve off our damn roof and everything?" And he looked at him and said, "Simple. As long as he's on our house, he's on our house. He's not in our house."
Oh boy.
And like Eddie was like, "Oh yeah, I get it." That's when he hit the light bulb. Yeah, yeah. And they started pounding each other, and they got off. But, you know, he was there on the roof, and it started snowing.
Emotional
When it
labor.
was winter time, and this is Chicago. There's a reason it's called the Windy City. So you got this shit going on. I'm like, what the hell?
It's emotional labor for you.
Wait. What's that say? What's that say? Thanks to my mom, I know that both Burton McClure and Darius McCrary are on Y&R now. Thanks, mom. What, Burton McClure? Is that Richie? Because Darius McCrary, that's who played Eddie.
Yeah, that's hers.
McClure, who's that? Which one's that? Bert Bruton or is it Burton McClure? Wait a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm looking it up right now.
Yep, that's Richie.
Oh, that's Richie. All right.
Uh, it's funny. It's funny because when you realize the show, a lot of times young men, and it's kind of funny because I looked at Family Matters different because it came out in '89
Mm-hmm.
compared to when I seen it as a teenager.
Mhm.
And Dr. Dunbar loved Waldo. Wake up and go to sleep just like you did, huh? Bit of truth. It was. It's funny because when you actually look at Eddie, who ended up being a cop, just
Right.
like his dad, and his dad becomes a captain, which in the equivalent of the Baltimore Police Department, he either would have been the executive officer of the whole police district or running the
Mhm.
entire district, basically. So he was a very high ranking person in the police department. And which it was funny because remember his lieutenant,
Oh yeah,
it showed you how powerful white supremacy is that
and his lieutenant was like kind of a bumbling idiot at times.
his lieutenant was was incompetent,
Indeed.
but he was
Speaking of
off.
which, before we continue, Charles, I got to mention something. You know, like how we talk about the issue about how they try to emasculate black men and shit.
Hmm.
There was that episode where they had to have Carl dressed in drag to catch a mugger,
Yeah.
and it took Harry to teach him how to walk like a woman.
Oh boy.
Uh, I was like, oh god.
And if you understand the story of it, because the sergeant explained that because his boss, the lieutenant explained to him what happened.
Yeah.
Because it's like, because they explained to him like, the reason we are in this for this operation was that some lowlife had mugged the police chief's wife. And he said, if we can catch that mugger, what do you think is going to happen? Carl just looked and said, "For the promotion, sir," I said, "That's the least we can expect from that old rummy." Now, fortunately, they did catch him.
Hmm.
They did catch the mugger, and Carl did get an accommodation for his heroics. However, at the end, the lieutenant got jealous and decided, you know what? I got to try this and catch a mugger myself. I can do it. And you see him in drag. So there was a comeuppance in a sense because you got a white guy in drag for it.
You had a white guy who was the ranking officer, and he was allowed to be incompetent.
Yeah.
You don't realize how real to life that shit was. If, and
What
if
is it? What is it? Patrice O'Neill said, "Racism will be over when black mediocrity will be accepted, just like white mediocrity."
because you got to remember, it's like when I told black women the difference between black men and black men. What you think is racism is not racism.
Hmm.
You got to realize that when, how can I say it? Racism is not something that you can fake. It's very hard to really describe racism.
Hmm.
But when it happens, you know what the fuck it is.
Indeed.
And people be like, racism is because this guy doesn't like me because I'm black. No, it isn't.
Nope.
Racism is because I can mitigate your economic value. I can be
Race.
prejudiced, but it doesn't mean I'm racist because
Hmm.
I don't have the institution to minimize you.
Yeah, racism is allowing a Dixiecrat to say if you don't vote for him, you ain't black, and you go vote for him anyway.
That's the difference. When I had to explain to a black woman, what you experience, you think it's racism. Well, I'm a black female and a no, 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 no. I'm going to ask you this question. You're a teacher, right? Yes. How many black male teachers do you see? Well, only one or two. How many black female teachers? Well, about six, seven. What does that tell you? In order to
Hmm.
be, you need what? 4 year degree for high school, right? Yeah. How
Hmm.
many? How many times do we get mitigated and knocked off the educational groove line
also don't forget that they say black male teachers are the best, but we still don't. Yet white women still make up the majority of teachers.
About 70% of your teachers in America are white females. Think about this, right? You complain about racism,
Hmm.
but yet you complain about black men not making this much, even though black men still make more money than black women in all the totality and studies. But what happens? You still, and I do mean this, you still understand that you gave away our reparations, which would have been our jobs, our
Hmm.
education, our housing. Now they got rid of what? Affirmative action, right?
Yep.
Thanks to that. What's we call that person? Who Blunt, I think his name.
Huh?
Oh,
Well,
by
Same
the
thing.
way, did you know
it's
that?
go ahead, AB.
Did you know the majority of black women who make over $100,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck? Oop.
Yeah,
Considering how financially irresponsible a lot of them are, I'm not surprised.
yeah, it's sad, isn't it? I want you to think about that for a second. Black men,
Surprising.
black men will go up there constantly, and she would say, "Well, I'm a black female," and this. I said, "Let me ask you something. What you think is racism may not be, but when a black man goes to a job, we know it's racism.
Oh yes.
You can make a
I
complaint,
bet.
and nobody's trying to get rid of you yet. We make a complaint,
Hmm.
we get upset. Oh, we're the threat. How
Oh,
many? How
I've been
many?
in the room, and
Go
then the
ahead.
Microsoft. I've been in the room when the Microsoft conferences, and I'm literally the only black man in there. No
Oh,
black women, just all white dudes, maybe one Indian. I've been in those rooms. I've
Mm-hmm.
got email for events and show up there and ain't nobody there, or they cancel the event and didn't tell me.
Mm-hmm.
that's messed
So
up.
How many times does that happen?
too often, I gave up on them. I probably shouldn't have, but
I want you to think about this, right? And I had a reminder. I said, how many black men were looked over and you were given their spot? Because instead
mm,
of saying the men need this because the men are the leaders of the community, the men are the caretakers, the men are the providers, how many of you took that? How many scholarships do you have for black girls compared to black boys?
hmm
Other than athletic wins.
I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that. A lot of people do not, and I mean do not, pay attention to that,
hmm
No, they don't.
even though it's supposed to be the concept that black men don't understand. And I'm really starting to realize a lot of black women don't understand racism because I can almost tell you how much you benefited off of racism. What you mean benefited off of racism? If if you didn't hand the keys to education, jobs to black women, I mean excuse me, white women, how many black men would have took those jobs?
Mm-hmm.
How many? You would have found men on your so-called level.
Mm-hmm.
You would have found people who are your equal.
Yep.
But here's another thing. Do black men even understand the concept of them being a victim? No,
Nope.
No,
no.
we told that we need to alpha our way through it.
Black men don't even know the concept of you needing to rest,
Mm-hmm.
relax.
You got a John Henry at all, fool. You got a John Henry, boy.
That's why
Well,
we die early, unfortunately.
that's why you die of all these stress-related diseases. And then guess what happened? Especially in the black community, a lot of these women been taking these manly roles, and they be getting the same ailments as men.
Or
Yep.
worse. People forget that men may outnumber women when it comes to heart attacks, but women outnumber men when it comes to strokes. Think about that.
Think about
I
that.
mean, not to mention, look at all the most of the women, all of them just bloated, out of shape. And it's no wonder why a lot of folks have, why you see, notice like a lot of teenagers are obese or morbidly obese. And
Yep, right.
by the time a kid's a teenager, he looks like the size of an offensive or defensive lineman.
Yeah, and none of the athletic ability. Think
None of the
about
athletic
look.
abilities.
Look what a long ago Indigo Flow said. I feel guilty when I rest.
Yeah, that sense of inadequacy, that sense that you got to be
Yeah,
doing
you gotta
something.
step out of that, man. Man, don't ever feel guilty when you need to rest for a while.
You can't
It's the
work
other
yourself to
way,
death. I've seen times where I've had to sit down and say, wait, I need to take a step back. What the fuck am I doing?
especially as you get older. Don't do that to yourself. What do you want me to turn it on?
Shit. I mean, how many people even take the time to look at what how shit is taking a toll on them emotionally? Because like, some people still think, I gotta be the provider for my family. How you gonna be a provider for your family by working yourself to death like that?
And I'm gonna
Knowing
tell
full well that,
you, we lost a brother because of that.
yeah, the pressure was too much. He felt like the only way out was through the afterlife,
To delete himself, unfortunately.
to check out, as they say.
And I keep telling black men, you don't understand the concept of being tired and rested. Stop feeling guilty because there's some things you cannot do. Stop feeling inadequate because you can't take a chick to a fucking 5-star restaurant every time you go out.
Right.
What is your
You should
desire?
be. Mm-hmm.
What do you want out of life?
I remember back in the day, Def Comedy Jam, the comedian talked about the girl he was seeing at the time. He was seeing a woman, right? And she talked about how her ex paid the phone bill, paid the bill, paid, to paid all the bills, helped her with her car note, got her something, this, that, and the third, and used to take her out. And he just looked at her and said, "Shit, I might as well call that motherfucker because I need a few things taken care of while we're at it. What you looking at me for? What am I, a downgrade?"
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
think about it.
I mean,
What?
that's why Chris Rock said that very important thing when he did that special about um Obama. He said women cannot go backwards in lifestyle, just like men cannot go backwards sexually.
That's hard. We don't even understand there's a difference in conceptualism when it comes to how we live and how we're viewed.
That's
Mm-hmm.
true.
We don't even understand when we're victims of domestic violence.
Ooh, yeah.
Or being set up, falsely accused of it. I mean,
We don't understand that. We just don't. We don't even understand when to get out of bad relationships. We have no concept of when should I leave?
Ooh, that whatsoever.
When should I take my ball and walk?
take your ball and go home. It's always been the question.
Black women understand it. They'll leave a relationship just for not being happy.
Or because they graduated. Oops, did I say that out loud?
How the fuck do you graduate a marriage? So that was like your preschool marriage, your practice marriage.
You were a
Well,
child.
actually, to be fair, Charles, to Tia Mallory's credit, she graduated to failure because she can't find a date.
Oh, you thought it was gonna be easier when you post 40?
Just because you cute and light skinned, get out of here. It
Correct,
doesn't work like
Charles.
that.
Charles, correction. 40 plus kids.
Exactly. Who
And
wants
don't
to
get
go
me
into
wrong.
that
I'm
situation?
I'm not gonna miss. I'm not a hypocrite. She's still cute, but that's 40 cute.
She's been cute, but she's never been fine. Okay?
Nope.
Let me pull up this Long Island iced tea. I would like to call it the Strong Island iced tea. I could do that. I'm off.
I mean, she's kind of childlike in her antics.
just read the title of this name. Not the
That's
good
a good bar.
What's going on,
Yeah,
fellas?
deep
What's
in
going on,
it.
Panthro?
Yeah, what's going on, Doc?
one, Tiger. What's going on? I gotta change my damn shit since you changed yours. Oh
Hey,
man.
man. I just want to come up for a minute. Hey, man, we got to do the Lock Raven, man, before Christmas, man. We got to do at least once.
Oh yeah.
All
Oh yeah.
right. I just want to come up real quick and say, hey, man, the emotional labor, that's a godsend, man, because like I think we all know, we've all felt it, but
Hmm.
there were no words for it. Why am I so drained? Why is she raising my blood pressure? Why do I want to
Yeah,
hit something? Why is my productivity falling off? Why is my manhood being questioned? Okay, there it is right there. Emotional labor. It's not something that your mom is equipped to tell you about because they think you're supposed to lay it all out there for your girlfriend or your significant other, or your wife. But we have a term for it now. We know what it is. So we can do things to protect ourselves against it.
They treat you as if that you're supposed to know it by the time you're 13 or 14, in a
But,
sense. Or they
but,
think, it's not worth. He'll figure it out or some shit like that.
but we don't teach. I want you to think about this in the black community.
Mhm.
Not one mother and barely any fathers teach their sons on how they should be respected in the
hmm
world, and especially by their women. It's always some type of compromising. That's why I hate it when people say, "I want a relationship that we can compromise." No, compromising means giving up ground. And when you're taught, well, that's how women are. That means you'll accept anything. You're not taught to look out for a chick who looks at you like a lick.
yeah. I was listening to one of my older cousins. He was arguing with his girlfriend, and I hear his girlfriend on the phone. A man's supposed to. I was like, that couldn't have been me. That couldn't have been me. No, I'm too old. No, 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 no. That would have ended the conversation right there.
Hell no. To
A
the
man, a
no,
man
no,
thought that
no.
I'm like, you're not a man. You don't have any earthly idea what it's like to walk as a black man. I'll say that to any black woman. You don't know what it's like to walk as a black man in this day and age.
Unless you're a transformer.
You
I'm
don't
gonna
know.
I'm gonna tell you how bad emotional labor is. Most of us had to manage at a very young age the emotions of our mothers. You know that? Most of
At
us
the
had,
same time, they treat you like a child. They treat,
but you're a
even
child.
when you're growing up.
They'll call you the man of the house, but then they'll beat you.
Yep. Call you the man of the house, and then they'll try to nag you.
How many times as a child, not even as a teenager, as a child, you had to manage the emotions of your own damn mother. And most of the time, she's upset about the men she was trying to date.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example, Charles. Imagine your mother looks at you trying to do something for yourself. Let's say you're trying to clean up you're cleaning your room, or you're cooking something for yourself, right? And your mother comes up and says, "What are you doing?" "Oh, no, no, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong." Even though she taught you how to do it, and you're doing it right, but she's like, "No, you did it wrong. You did it wrong." In a way, it's this insecurity that a mother has about accepting that her child's going to grow up and become an adult. Fathers encourage their kids to be independent. Mothers, unfortunately, will teach their children how to be codependent because they're afraid they're going to be alone and stuff. I'm like, what the hell?
And I want you to realize that a lot of young black men don't even know how to, don't even realize you had to manage your mother's fucking shit. And think about it. A lot of women in our community are bitter about men that they picked.
I teach that at best. Do what makes you happy, but trust and believe. When a woman ain't happy, she brings nothing but pain to everybody around her.
But you got to notice the difference between men and women. When a man's not happy, he's usually too busy trying to make everybody else happy.
Yeah, pretty
You know,
much.
hopefully to try to compensate for what he's lacking, what he thinks he's lacking.
When women are not happy, they'll bring down the whole fucking house.
Oh yes. There's a
Well,
reason the Bible says a foolish woman will tear down her house with her own hands.
yep.
They don't want to talk now. Black women don't want to talk about that, despite how religious they claim to be. But
How childish. I mean, like, remember when BTS put out that clip about that one woman talking about it, what she did with her Nigerian husband, and the way she was talking about it, like the way she was laughing about it, giggling, and he was explaining, like, to them, it's entertainment.
yep, to me that was
It's,
an advertisement for SYSBM.
and that brother, I'm sure he knew what she was like, because what type of Nigerian brother was he, first of all? I'm curious to know. Was he like States, born in the States or some shit like that? So he knew what he was getting into when he got involved with this woman? But it just shows you. But the woman herself, when she talked about it, she was just giggling, snickering, laughing about it. And she thought it was just a game. It was entertainment for her. You don't see African women act like that. Or when they do it to people they can do it in the face of those they know they can get away with. And it's that sense of entitlement, contempt, childishness. I'm like, this is why I'm thinking, like, You ever notice like women in their 30s, they will talk down to women in their 20s and such, calling them a little girl. Hang on a second.
Mm-hmm.
Like they say, like she's a little girl. I'm a grown woman. It's like, yeah, but you mature too late when you think about it. I mean, yeah, you know what you want now because you were putting yourself you were put in a position where you had to do some serious soul searching. Something you should have done long ago, at least a decade. I guess a lot of women they start acting this way once the party's over. But hang on a second.
Mm. Got quiet.
I mean, hey, giving people the chance to speak.
Yeah.
But you
Well, to the
gotta
good doctor, ask him what's his take on all this. In
good
fact, let
doc.
me ask you a question, Doc. Since you are the pharmacologist here, and in your background being microbiology, biochemistry, and everything that goes with it, could you please explain to everyone the lengths and the depths that long-term exposure of cortisol does to the human body? Dr. Dunbar? Dr. Goodball?
He might be doing something.
Oh, he might be doing something.
He said, "Hold on."
Okay.
Okay.
Uh, so
If
you got
anybody wants to know what the hell is cortisol, that's known as a stress hormone.
that's the
It
stress.
has its place. It has its place in the human anatomy, or in the anatomy of any animal in particular. But to have long-term amounts of that, racing through your system can be absolutely detrimental. That's why there's a gentleman that comes to mind. His name is Robert Sapolsky,
You know how dangerous cortisone.
PhD.
You know how dangerous cortisone is that a lot of police officers and firefighters and EMTs and paramedics, they're called what? Adrenals. Your body gets used to running on that high level.
Look
And
at people who had mental health issues like PTSD, like yourself, Charles. People who suffered trauma in their lives.
guess what
That
happens?
cortisol fucks.
Guess what happens when they've been on that high adrenaline junkie shit? The lifespan after retirement on average for police officers 10 years, sometimes
Shit.
5.
I
Damn.
mean,
I want you to think
do you
about
have
that
any idea? I mean, it's that thrill that gives you because you have that
because
sense that you're alive when you're going through that shit every day.
yeah, but you got to remember, your body gets used to that. What happens when your
Yeah.
body is lacking all that adrenaline, all that cortisone? Is that it
You
shuts
go
down.
into things that to chase it. You try to chase that high. I mean, you remember the movie Heat?
Mm-hmm.
You remember
Greatest
that restaurant scene? That
greatest
restaurant
Charles.
scene between where?
movie history,
Huh?
greatest shootout in movie history.
Yeah, but if you remember that scene where Neil McCauley and Detective Vincent Hanna, played by Robert De Niro and Al Pacino respectively, when they were having that conversation in the restaurant. That conversation, when both of them admit, this is the only thing I know how to do. I can't do anything else. I mean, in the movie, you saw Al Pacino's character, Vincent Hanna, just Detective Hanna, just leave, leave a function to go to a crime scene. And when they talked about like, relationships and shit, and they admitted to one another, yeah. Like Hannah explained it in that conversation, said, not my life. My life is a disaster. Peace and blessings, Underrated Darkness. How you been, brother?
Salute to the celebrity, underrated darkness.
Yeah. But like I said, in that
Number one grinder.
excuse me. Go ahead. You wanted to ask something, AB?
Said number one grinder.
Number one grinder. Number one grinder.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I was saying. If you remember in that, like when they talk, they bare their souls to one another because there was a mutual camaraderie. They understood each other. Because Pacino's character, Detective Hannah, admitted that his life is a disaster. He's got 2 bad marriages behind him, a third one that's on the rocks. He's got a stepdaughter played by Natalie Portman, who almost took her life in the movie. And his marriage in that one was a disaster. And he realized, I got a stepdaughter who's a complete fuck up because her father is a grade A uptight asshole. So he looked at him and said, so Macaulay, played by De Niro, said, so when you're doing all this stuff, how are you supposed to doing your job? How are you supposed to maintain a marriage? Good point. And of course, Pacino looked at him and said, so what are you, a monk? I got a woman. What do you tell her? I tell her I'm a salesman. And that's all there was to it. Oh, Albert must be. Oh, AB is experiencing technical difficulties. He'll be back in a minute.
Hey guys, I'm back.
Goodbye.
Yeah, my mother came home. I wanted to greet her. I hadn't seen her all day. So I think you had a question about cortisol or stress hormones.
Yes, long-term exposure to cortisol to the human anatomy. I believe if you recall, are you familiar with somebody by the name of Dr. Robert Sapolsky, PhD, University of Stanford, neurobiology?
Sounds familiar.
He was like one of the key. There's a documentary by National Geographic called Stress, the Silent Killer.
Yes.
He was one of the featured he was one of the people interviewed in that documentary, and his breakdown of everything, considering his 40-year plus research on stress hormones of baboons of various troops. And alongside that, there was some other people doing research with certain types of primates and simians regarding stress hormones and whatnot. I remember there was one called the White Heart research they did in the UK, where they interviewed and checked the medical files of civil servants from various levels of the Ministry of Justice and how they've dealt with stress and whatnot. But Dr. Dunbar, if you could please explain to everybody what is cortisol, how is it beneficial, but also how it can be detrimental to the human anatomy.
Well, let's do a quick search here, because when you train in the sciences, sometimes you have to relearn things yourself, and I do know that is called the stress hormone. Cortisol levels. Okay. Cortisol is a steroid hormone that your adrenal glands, the endocrine glands on top of your kidneys, produce and release. Cortisol affects several aspects of your body and mainly helps regulate your body's response to stress. Let's see. So is cortisol a stress hormone? Cortisol is widely known as the stress hormone. However, it has many important effects and functions throughout your body aside from regulating your body's stress response. It's important to remember that biologically speaking, I'm just going to read a little bit of this. There are multiple different kinds of stress, including acute stress. Acute stress happens when you're in sudden danger, within a short period of time. For example, barely avoiding a car accident or being chased by an animal are situations that cause acute stress. I think you can extrapolate this into certain domestic situations. Chronic stress. Stress happens when you experience ongoing situations that cause frustration or anxiety. For example, having a difficult, frustrating job or having a chronic illness that can cause stress. I think you can extrapolate this back into domestic situations. And then finally, traumatic stress. This is the last one I'll read. Traumatic stress happens when you experience a life-threatening event that induces fear and a feeling of helplessness. For example, experiencing an extreme weather event such as a tornado or experiencing war or sexual assault can cause traumatic stress. In some cases, these events can lead to PTSD. Let's see. So
there's another disorder
this gets to your question almost. So what does cortisol do to my body? Almost all tissues in your body have glucocorticoid receptors because of this. Cortisol can affect nearly every organ system in your body, including the nervous system, the immune system, the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, reproductive systems, the musculoskeletal system, and the integumentary system. So I think that's a nice overview of what it is and what it does. Sorry?
What was that last one again? That last system?
The integumentary system. Skin, hair, nails, glands, and nerves. So eventually it'll kill you. It'll kill you. And I will say this. I'm working to my LDL and HDL were out of balance. So I did some reading up on cholesterol. Those are two forms of cholesterol, and either the Mayo Clinic or Case Western did state that something that can elevate your cholesterol is stress. So if you're in a stressful domestic situation, I'm not saying I was, but I might have been, that can elevate your cholesterol. So you need to be careful about who you deal with and how long, and if you need to get away, then get away.
Absolutely.
Because all that emotional labor, you think you're supposed to tough it out and man up and show how strong you are. That will eventually kill you if you stay too long in a situation like that. So,
especially in the case of somebody who is an empath like myself, who absorbs other people, who can easily absorb other people's emotions and can do all kinds of irreversible damage to our own sanity. Or if you're somebody who has high emotional sensitivity, which you have to remove yourself from certain environments, or because long-term exposure could affect you. Also, by the way, I'm not sure if you're familiar with something called complex PTSD, sir.
Sorry?
You know what that is? Complex PTSD.
Well, if it's complex PTSD, that's got to be exponentially worse than regular PTSD.
Well, it affects anybody from any age range could suffer from PTSD, and that's like from a particular traumatic event. But some people, like in childhood or in teenagehood, could develop something called complex PTSD. That's when you've been dealing with long-term exposure to traumatic events, repeated trauma, like sexual, physical, emotional, and psychological abuse. And you end up developing abnormal reactions. And because the mind is still developing in that person, you can develop, your brain could be like somewhat deformed if people look at it through a CT scan or something like that. Your amygdala could be shrunken. Your hypothalamus could also be affected in a certain way. They look at neural activity in your brain. They're going to see like there's hyperactivity in certain places where it shouldn't be, and hypoactivity in other places. And you develop like weird emotional responses to certain things.
Okay. Well, hey, gentlemen, I have to drop. I just want to come up for a minute and
Dr. Dunbar.
Yeah,
Thank
Charles,
you, John.
let's try to get that a session in before Christmas.
Okay, cool.
All right, you guys take care.
Uh,
All
Peace.
right. There's gonna be a lot of cigar smoking that night.
oh yeah, and it's funny
Shit,
that
I should have gotten my complicated icon if we're gonna be doing this.
it's kind of funny because when you talk about the stress and the hormones because of it,
Hmm.
and people be like, "We live longer." I said, "How many times men take much more dangerous jobs than women? 9 times out of 10." Men take more risk than women because of testosterone and other factors. Testosterone makes you more risky, makes you more aggressive, so you're going to be prone to fights, prone to driving faster. There's a reason why.
You can
So
also get really enraged in some cases
yeah,
unless you know how to regulate your emotions. But
yeah,
when they say we live longer, yeah, but the quality of life isn't always better.
yeah, and you gotta really figure this out. Like a lot of times, and thank you, Rocket King, for the $15 holla salute. Um, you gotta think about this. A lot of men don't even understand the concept of them being stressed out until it's almost too late for them. It's almost too late.
Like high blood pressure, hypertension. Uh, you can end up developing, type 2 diabetes as a result. Um, some people end up engaging in risky behaviors as a cope. Like, you got some people who are emotional eaters. Shout out to the late Big Pun on that one. You got people who end up engaging in risky behaviors as a means to like escape. I mean, you have men who are married to wives, and due to the stress she's causing him and everything, and the emotional. And here's the thing about this whole emotional labor thing: like guys have to have emotional labor, but women don't do the same in return. And that's why you have like the happy white school, other YouTubers like that, so-called red pill women who are trying to explain to women you're messing up. And as a result, it's no surprise why some guys may decide just to look for emotional connection somewhere else than at home. I mean, Charles, how many police officers end up having affairs?
Um, 85%.
No naming names. No naming names.
85%.
85%. And how often can it be like, it could be a fellow police officer on the job?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Just because you know what they go through.
You guys all relate and everything. Of course, that could it get caught. That's like what? That's like like conduct unbecoming. That
Depends
could
on
like destroy your career, right?
the situation.
Because I know in the military, if you end up having an affair or some shit like that, you can end up being, you can face this on dishonorable discharge and shit, right?
Yeah, you can.
Shit. You remember the movie The General's Daughter?
Oh yeah.
You want to talk about broken people, trauma, misconduct.
It's just broken people love to be around broken people.
Well, who else is going to relate to you? And how many people just don't know how to heal? I mean, that movie talks about a lot of things. I mean, if you ever read the book that it was filmed based on. But going back to what, like I said, about stress and everything, that's why Eddie Griffin in his special in 2009, Freedom of Speech, that's why he talked about that's why he asked the question, Black women, why is it you guys get the most dick and we get the most problems? and they explain what stress does to the human body.
Because to them, stressing somebody out is fun. Drama is fun to them.
The one thing a woman hates is if you bore her. I'm like, oh man, that's when you have to get the fuck up out of there. That's why DL Hughley in his special said, you can cheat on a woman all you want, but she'll never forgive you for boring her. That's one thing I know a woman will never forgive. You cheat, you just boring the fuck out of her. What the hell?
That's what people say.
Is that justice?
Nah, that's not justice.
Uh, Another dog.
Yep.
Well, what breed is it?
Pit bull. Get out, girl.
Pit bull terrier. I've got a preference for labs and for Labradors and Rottweilers, but okay.
It's the fact that to them, a lot of it is fun. Drama is fun. What's the number one type of show?
Yeah, just like
Drama. Why?
Real,
Why do you so many?
Real Housewives of this,
Why do you so?
reality TV.
Why do so many women love ratchet TV? No matter how educated, no matter how much money they love drama shows.
Absolutely. I almost got caught up in that shit. I mean, that's why they love talk shows like, like Oprah, Wendy Williams, Sally Jesse Raphael, Ricky Lake, Phil Donahue, um, Geraldo Rivera, Lardo, as he was referred to in a Martin Lawrence joke. That's why everybody loves Jerry Springer, Maury Povich. It's all just entertainment to them. It's all just, it's childish, but you would think they would know. But I guess for them, it's like an escape from reality. And we're not allowed to escape from reality.
No, you're
That's
held.
why they give us a hard time when it comes to video games or us watching the game or
That's why
watching something.
That's why when you try to escape from reality, what happens? What all you do is sit down and play the game. Oh God, you're not paying attention to me.
This is why. That's why Chris Rock said, do you ever notice no man goes doesn't go home straight from work? No, he got to go somewhere. He
Yeah,
got to drink something. He got to smoke something. He got to watch the game. He got to hang with his boys. He got to do whatever he needs to do to get himself situated for the amount of talking he's going to get when he gets home.
yeah, and you got to think about it. Guess what tomorrow's title gonna be?
But
Steps that black women do not understand.
who's got the longer list, you think?
So take a guess. You got. I want you to think about this. When you go out, and when black men only ask for you to be nicer and respectful towards them, compared to do
At
I
least.
do I have to compete for my man? They don't even understand that concept. Just like we don't understand that we're worth being competed for, just like they are. We don't. They don't understand the concepts. We look at it like it's a deal that you got to deal with her bullshit.
I hate when somebody say that's just the way it goes. No, it doesn't. That's not how it's supposed to be. But that's what it is. Oh man,
It's funny because a lot of brothers think stress is part of the game.
it's
If she,
not.
if she goes in front of if she looks for my phone, it's okay for her to throw it.
That's why no brother should get into a relationship with Natalie Campbell. Never trust her with a phone or a remote. Same thing with Rihanna.
Nah, Rihanna, it's kind of funny, right? It takes a negative. It takes her to make $1 billion for a negative want to openly be in a relationship with her, even after what she people read and seen what she put Chris Brown through, and it's amazing. Chris Brown loses a career, almost lost his career, and went to court over Rihanna, and she gets to become a billionaire. Make that,
Remember,
and she was the
remember. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
and she was the aggressor. She was the attacker.
You went through the dude's phone, and now you want to start some shit on your way from the awards to whatever after party, and he's driving. You want to start some shit in the car while he's driving. First of all, when is it ever a good idea to go through your man's phone? I never understood that.
Because it's drama. It's fun.
My mother never went through my father's phone. Well, yeah, well, then again, different culture and everything. But anytime my dad got a call, anything like that, we didn't touch that phone. We just let him know, yo, there was your phone ring, or we just grab the phone and hand it to him, let him know somebody ringing. Oh, by the way, my father's ringtone on his phone was Billy Ocean's "Mystery Lady."
Funny.
Good, yeah, good song. Hey, I remember I had Mary Jane on mine at one time. You gotta love Rick James.
I'm
But
regret.
go on, express yourself. But like I said, who thought it was a good idea to go through your man's phone or his laptop or MacBook? Um, go through his clothes or such. I remember it was like, I mean, so that I remember if you remember Chris Rock's movie, I think I love my wife. Gina Torres plays his significant other, and when she suspects he's been cheating on her, she's going through his clothes, and the closest thing she found was like links to like a to adult site.
Mm, wow. Like, who the fuck wants that exist?
The two of them are at the marriage counselor, and right, she's like, "Oh, I'm just enjoying all the non-sexual stuff right now, all this that." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm really enjoying the non-sexual stuff." His sexual frustration, she never really considered it. I mean, you're a mother, but that doesn't say that you're a mom, but so you're a mother, but that doesn't mean you have to relinquish your wife duties.
Mm,
I mean, here's the irony about it. Here's the irony about it. When the woman's not in the mood, you're supposed to accept it as it is, right? But if the man's not in the mood, she's gonna be like saying, "Oh, wait a minute. Is it something else? Is it another woman? Is it gay? Is he having erectile dysfunction and shit?" No. Sometimes he just doesn't want it. He just doesn't want to do it. There are times when we just not interested. It's like sometimes you're like you can have steak every night for every night you can have steak for dinner, but every once in a while you want to just have something else. That's the thing about it. You know what I'm saying? Must be some good Long Island iced tea, huh?
It's dubious. But no, it's just more likely we we just kind of devalue ourselves because one of the
Yeah.
biggest factors in it is that we don't think we make enough money. We don't think we're smart enough. We don't think we're adequate.
Yes. But did you catch the point I was making just now
Oh,
about the difference
oh
of when the woman's not in the mood to get it on, we have to leave it be. But if
man.
a man's not in the mood to get it on,
Oh, he's gonna be ridiculed.
then he gonna get ridiculed. I mean, you have to understand. But then again, that's the thing, right? People mock. People like to mystify the whole thing about the female sexuality, but male sexuality, they just look at it like it's. They just want to demonize it and shit. I'm like, first of all, no. What turns one dude on is not gonna turn every man on.
Yeah, yeah.
I
But,
mean,
but they always think we think the same. What?
no,
Gotta remember, projection so much. They project so much that shit ought to be an IMAX.
yeah, I can understand that. And I'm like, what the hell wrong with y'all? I mean, it doesn't work like that. I mean, that's dehumanizing. I mean,
I mean, I
we
want
all
you.
have different preferences in women,
Yeah,
just like we all have different preferences in what we like, what we like to do and whatnot, or like we all have different preferences when it comes to sexual positions, for example. Just like certain dudes, because like it's the same thing with certain women. Of course, for the women, it has a lot more to do with their anatomy,
yeah.
because no two because any gynecologist will tell you, no two women have the same, the JJ. Because if you look at the holies of holes, it's built differently for every woman. So that determines how easy or how difficult of a child, how difficult it is for her to give birth. At the same time, it also indicates which positions are best to, to get, give her the good, to give her the, the business, as they say. What's
I mean,
good, underrated darkness?
hey, what's up, underrated?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just came to let you know, keep up the good work and what's going
I,
on, brother. Peace to y'all and your families, and even in the chat in your family.
I
I
appreciate.
would say, yeah, I would say that us as black men, we have to again to welcome diversity for us as a people, especially us as black men. And it doesn't mean that we have to change our path to be masculine. It doesn't change the way how we have to keep pursuing to be as one. It does should not stop us to continue injustice as us as a black men, even our family.
Mm-hmm.
We should never let the we should never let we should never let the difference get in the way. And I say that because almost 2 years ago, me and Charles met up with the Miss,
Mm,
and it was beautiful. Two black
Mm-hmm.
men together.
yeah,
Me originally from New York, from Baltimore, took her to the Wax Museum. And I tell people, go to the Wax Museum. It would change the thinking of for us as a people.
yeah. Will
The Wax Museum, you say?
when you go to the Great Blacks of Wax Museum in Baltimore, anybody who visits Baltimore should go. Did
So,
Okay.
they still have that big gigantic wax of Hannibal?
yeah.
That it was life size too. So you can imagine if you were like a Roman soldier and you
hmm
facing that,
hmm
you're
And
like, oh,
so,
shit.
and so, yeah. So What I'm saying is this: that if me and Charles can meet up and we can make time for each other, and shout out to the miss, but me and Charles, if we can meet up and break bread, and plus he took time and do a chop up on my channel, we could do the same thing. But the sad thing about it, in this space, so I understand outside of space. I understand as a black man. I understand outside of space, and I could deal with that. I don't care about that. But inside the space, we should be better. We should do better
Yes.
because our life is involved. We got examples like Brother Charles. We got other examples. And even you don't
Hmm.
have to like, I tell you, you don't have to like me, but you're going to respect me. I respect your existence, you'll respect me. But if you don't, just understand you're missing out.
Yeah.
And so I was urged, black men, get to know if that person's worse off, they wicked. I understand that. But the elections is coming up next year. Everything, if you see everything was going on in this country, it makes you think. As a 57-year-old black man, I'm telling you, I seen things in my lifetime. I've been through things in my lifetime. So I'm telling you for personal experience, us as black men, young and old, we are under attack more than ever. And we better strategize. We better do whatever we can to be as one because the powers that be do not want us to live. They do not want us to work together. They do not want us to protect our families. They would use even some that looks like us to destroy us. And I'm talking to black men. You better understand what I'm saying. Because I'm in it to win
Hmm.
it. I'm in it to win it.
Excuse me, brother, if I may say something. I have a question for the underrated darkness. But before I do, Admiral on deck. Assalamu alaikum, Sand Dog. How you been, brother?
Walaikum salam. Walaikum
It's
salam.
been a while, man. How the baby?
Y'all, man, she's good. She's good.
MashaAllah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. It's good. Okay. Um, Underrated. For real. I think you I'm not sure if you might remember me, but I remember you talked about your father, about when he came back from serving the country. You served in the country, right? In the army.
Yes, right.
And you talked about how men like brothers like him, when they were coming up, they got shafted. There was no GI Bill, there was no home grants, nothing for them. They got the shaft, while their white counterparts got everything. They got the grants, they got the passes and everything. They were covered for the extent, but they did what they had to do to make it. And I think is like one thing I think that's also holding a lot of brothers back is the whole thing of generational trauma because we don't understand because some people forget they don't understand what their forebears went through. You can teach the history, but if you don't empathize or humanize the people at that era, what they were going through, and we don't put ourselves in their shoes and realizing why they are the way they were, why they had that type of mentality, where that mentality came from, you can't evolve. You're
But
going to get stuck, caught up in that mentality, not understanding why.
But
You know what I'm saying?
I understand what I'm saying, brother. But if you understand what I'm saying is this. I'm not this is what I'm saying. Don't forget about the other black men. Wherever they
Hmm.
have little, they make it do. But at the
Indeed.
but at the same time, let's keep on building. Let's keep on informing. Let's keep on creating. Because this is the only thing, this is the one thing too that we fail to understand something as black men. We even forget about the ones that come before us. And Brother Charles, he talks about it we talked about this at the wax museum.
oh
That's
yeah,
what
Hmm.
I was really personally getting emotional because I'm all about history. And trust me, I'm not saying I know everything, but I know about history well enough to understand. what I've been through. I understand the ones that laid the foundation. I'm very, very equipped saying that. So please, people, don't get it twisted. What I'm saying
Absolutely.
is this very firmly. Let's take the ones that we learned from in the past and make it. We gotta learn to break vicious cycles. I had to break vicious cycles in the past for myself because my late father had told me be better than me. You hear what I'm
Indeed.
saying, bro? So what we
I
have
hear
to
you.
do, we got to understand the trauma, like you said,
Hmm.
absolutely. But at the same time, we have to create spaces like this so brothers can feel comfortable and understand, yeah, but also they can move on too. That's all I'm saying. But we still gotta continue because there are some brothers be thinking, well, we made it. Oh, we made it. We got a space. No, we still got ways to go. We
There's still
still
work
got
to do.
ways to go. Just start from somewhere,
Hmm.
and that's all I'm gonna
There's
say.
still no, I'm sorry, sorry for interrupting. It's just that I hear what you're saying because I myself, I come from a different culture and everything. I come from a different country, and learning about my forebears' history, especially when it came to colonialism and such, that's when I realized, oh, so that's why we think the way we do. That's why you guys have that thought process. I mean, my parents, the generation they
It was a method to the.
fought, bled. Hmm?
It's always a method to the madness when it comes to the black community, and
Yeah.
basically,
Any black community,
yeah.
not just in America. Look at the Afro Canadians, because those are your brethren too. When you think about it, I'm not talking about the ones who immigrated from the Caribbean. I'm talking about the brothers who escaped slavery and didn't just settle in the American North. They went across the Great Lakes and settled in Canada. Because those brothers, they had their own struggles to deal with, and they understood the and there's a parallel right there.
Oh yeah.
Just like the brothers coming from the islands. Look at Afro Latinos. Look what they had to deal with.
And with their so-called own people. But go
Yeah,
in, Sam Dog. Go in. We want to hear from you.
Yo, what's going on, Charles? What's
That's
going on? Yo, shout out to the panel. Um, what I just wanted to share when you was talking about emotional labor, there's a couple of concepts that I wanted to bring up, and I hope I articulate them uh, in the way that people can digest it. First and foremost, you have to understand that the average man is not average. The average man is the shoulders that society stands upon. Um, and if you do not appreciate or destroy these men, you do not have society. I know that in our kind of manosphere spaces, right, and more of your popular culture aspect of the manosphere, you'll hear these concepts about being alpha and mastering your own destiny and all these different things. And I get it, and that's pretty cool. But do you know what you get when everybody's an alpha dog in your society, so to speak? You get Afghanistan, you get tribal warlords in Fallujah, right? When you get a lot of guys with a top dog mentality, where everybody's bossed up and you can't tell them shit. That's what you get. You get Afghanistan, you get Fallujah, and those societies are nothing that you want a part of. So, men who believe in society, who uphold society, who clean your sewers, who collect your trash, who do your plumbing, who do your police officer work, who do your soldiering, right? The guys who get on your trade vessels, right? These men are what allows you to be able to throw a football and make $100 million a year. These men are what allow somebody to have a podcast and be a multimillionaire. Because without these men and women who are doing the heavy lifting of society, then society does not evolve into a point where you're able to focus on other things and do other things. So a lot of people who believe, okay, that they're killing it in life and they're doing this and they're doing that, they're forgetting about the shoulders that they're standing upon. Because without those people, they would, whatever it is that they want to do or what to achieve beyond survival would not be valuable to the human species. Uh, Another thing that happens in the West, and Niyama, you know this, and Charles, you've seen it. In tribal societies, have you noticed that many young men delay marriage as much as possible? Why? Because in those societies, you're not loaded with Disney fiction, right? These
Nope.
guys understand. They understand what they're getting into. They understand the business aspect of family and tribe. So marriage means something completely different than what it does in the West. So in the West, I slipped over a banana peel, you caught me, lightning hit us, and we've been in love ever since. Whereas, on the Eastern Hemisphere, there's still a better understanding of the business aspects of marriage, right? The family and the tribal aspects of marriage. Again, because over here, you don't marry the individual, you marry the family, right? So it's a completely it's a completely different dynamic. And I think that in the West, if people were to understand that that marriage and
Hmm.
families are institutions. And just like any institution, who you bring into that institution matters significantly, right? So the wrong woman or person brought into your family could ruin your family for 5 to 7 generations. That's probably how long it would take to work those people out and their dysfunction in your family, right? So, which is why in some other cultures, the family is a part of the selection process of mating, right? So even when you hear women who,
Absolutely.
yeah, so even when you hear women say, "I want to be courted," yep, fam, to be courted would be our families have met, and when I take you on a date, your brothers, cousins, or uncles are on the other side of the restaurant to take you home after you and I have sat down and talked, right? Because you're not
Hmm.
left alone. In Islam, we have a hadith from the Prophet, peace be upon him, that says, when a man and woman are alone, the third person with them is Satan, right? And so at
I
the yeah, so at the end of the day, so like I said, so at the end of the day, you don't have the freedom of maneuver traditionally in a sense to go out and go through the process of sex and all of these things and produce what Mr. Z would call whoops babies, right? So in certain societies, the way that they operate, things are very deliberate, right? And so you have to understand the average man isn't average. There's a business to institution building, which is family, right? So
hmm
one of the reasons why so many things in America are failing, why? It's because your cornerstone institution of family, uh, your cornerstone institution of family does not work. And what I would warn women of, America in general of, when you destroy the average man, you don't get cops, you don't get sanitation workers, you don't get firefighters, you don't get teachers, you don't get all the heavy lifting that you need or that's required to uphold society. So, so I don't know. I don't know what the powers that be are looking for, or I have no idea. But you have to be very careful. And this also happens. This also is something that our intellectual elite must be aware of. Also, both male and female. The other thing, and then the other thing that I wanted to talk about was, you're talking about having a culture or cultural orientations into how the world works, right? Because many African Americans, especially, right, or a lot of people in general, tend to live in a bubble, so they're not engaged in necessarily how the world works, and so not understanding how the world works puts you at a deficit in regards to negotiation, right? So if I don't understand the industry that I work in, right, and I am interviewing for a job and someone is asking me what's my desired salary, I could probably undercut myself because I don't understand the industry and I do not understand the value of my position or the value of my labor, right? So again, remember, I'm trying to connect this all to institutions. So you would need to understand what's happening in the industry, what position that you're applying for, and what are the current market rates, uh, so for said position, right? And so if you're being offered a position and that position has X, Y, and Z, and you know the market value of the labor that you have to do, and somebody is trying to undercut you, right? Or somebody's trying to undercut you in the sense of, how much your annual salary will be, or sad, and most unfortunately, somebody else is coming off the street saying, I'll do that for cheaper, with less return, then you have to move on and go somewhere or go to an institution, where these things will be valued. My frustration comes with black men would be is that all these things are understood in the lower culture. What do I mean by the lower culture? So your gangsters, right? Your gangsters and your gangster rappers. A lot of these lessons that we're learning now, these guys have been saying it for decades. To be honest with you, your gangbangers, your gangster rappers, your comedians, they've been saying so much of this stuff for decades, right? So shout out to Eddie Murphy, shout out to Chris Rock, right? Only women, children, and dogs get unconditional love. So for men, it will be and the whole thing is under process, right? The cool thing about the manosphere, and I know a lot of guys debate things, but but Sandog would say, I am a child of chaos, and not chaos in the sense of disorder, but chaos in the sense of accepting things in their natural state. I didn't come to this space to be right or wrong. I have no desire to be right. All I share is a perspective, and it's something that you can take or leave, right? So I'm not, again, I'm not married in the sense to what I'm telling you. I am just giving you, uh, I'm just giving you a perspective, and so when you look at our space, the cool thing is that this is a place where black male thought or independent thought is surviving. And so when you look at the average man, the average Joe, right? You look at things like SYSBM. A lot of people don't understand that SYSBM is actually a bull. It has two horns. There's one that's external and there's another that's internal. So external is guys are getting their passports and they're going to Eritrea, they're going to these other places and they're meeting people, from other cultures, and they're able to engage and establish families or do what they're going to do. The other part of SYSBM, which is not so popular in the space, is that a lot of guys are jumping Republican or jumping conservative because they're desiring policies or or things that will help black men become head of household again. And so the cool part of, like I said, and so the cool part about that is you could debate, what these guys believe or what they know, but at the end of the day, right, we all owe our lives to the men who did it through trial and error. So that first guy that took some pterodactyl feathers and jumped off a cliff, the fact that you can get on Emirates Airlines now and fly here or there, you owe a debt to him. And so it will be the same thing for a lot of the guys who are saying, look, I'm gonna go to another political party, good, bad, or indifferent, whether you agree with them or not. What are they doing? They're walking away, or it's their version or a form of walking away from the status quo that has created the circumstance that the community is in. So it's a at least from Sandal's perspective, it's a bull, right? So one horn is internal, one horn, one horn is external. And so hopefully for black men, these are the things that we learn, right? So don't let the internet don't let the internet get to your skull. Don't let what other people say get to your skull, because at the end of the day, the average man ain't average. So without sand dogs, food doesn't get in your grocery store. Without sand dogs, you don't get to pump gas at the gas station, right? Without an Officer Charles, right, or being deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan, you don't get to enjoy the majority of the world's resources as 4% of the population, right? You don't get safe streets because despite what people say about America, American cops do an exemplary job. America is relatively safe in relationship to the cops that it has and its population size. Would you like to go with me to Nigeria or Pakistan, where you have north of 200,000 people and you don't have a police force the way you do in the United States? I will be
No.
I will be
Oh,
more than happy to take you to. I'll be more than happy to take you to these countries. So
Yeah.
at the end, yeah. So like I said, I'll close it, man, and I'll shut up. But all I'm just trying to say is that in all of this, for everybody that's out there, the average man, right? Again, which is all of us, man. For me, for Charles, for the underrated one, for Nyama. Again, thank you guys and the people in the chat, right? Men and women. Thank you guys for the things that you do for society, because I stand on your shoulders, right? So those nurses who were there for COVID, right, who helped us get through COVID, like I said, our police officers, our sanitation workers, our plumbers, we stand on the, our train conductors, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And without them, society doesn't progress. Without them, there aren't people doing the heavy lifting where I could sit back and start thinking about Facebook, where I could sit back and think about Twitter, where I could sit back and think about Apple, where I could even sit back, hell, and think about Ford cars, right? So there are so many people that are doing the heavy lifting that are allowing others to innovate and invent to push humanity forward. But don't forget about the quote and unquote average or above average shoulders that you stand on. And that's all Sand Dog's got to say.
woo! Thank
I
you,
want
man.
to say
Ooh,
something.
thank you. Thank you. I just want to say
Thank
one last thing
you,
because
bro.
I gotta get out of here. I'm getting ready to have me some dinner. I would say that I appreciate that, brother. And I really appreciate that. But I would say this, that I salute Brother Charles. I salute the ones that make an impact in our community, a law enforcement. But for me, I have to say for me, I still gotta push the injustice. I still gotta talk about injustice, and even in law enforcement, us as black men too. But at the same time, wherever Brother Charles talk about what's going on in our community, we should support it. And that's the one thing I am very, very disappointed about, because even Charles gave me some points in the past. Hey, underrated. Watch out for this. Watch out for that. How how to ask questions. Do little things, and we should need to listen very, very carefully, because at the same time, in law enforcement, we are still being disfranchised as black men. But I'm talking about the ones who's doing the work. We should salute them, but at the same time, despite what I'm gonna say, this even internationally too, but even in America, we have to understand the laws is not really on our side. So we still gotta fight. We still gotta make sure that we good. We gotta make sure we can still gotta push on and stuff and make our own destiny. We don't have to worry about the laws that never was on our side anyway. I mean, make the best of it. I'm not saying make the best of it, but it has to be time that we got to join chains together, no
Agreed.
matter what, no whatever it takes. Thank you, brother Charles. Thank you, everybody else, and I salute you. Keep up the great work. Thank you, brother Charles, and keep
Give a hug
on
to the
employ our people. Thank you.
and give a hug and a kiss to the missus for me. Tell her I
I
said
will in a few. I will in a few minutes after I eat.
hi.
All
If it's
right.
gonna be good, he's gonna get the itis. So I think you better do it in advance.
Oh
Nah,
yeah.
hey, look, nah, y'all talking too much. Y'all talking too much. I ain't getting no ice,
Hey,
man.
hey, hey,
But
hey,
y'all
hey,
talking.
she probably a hell of a cook. She must be a good cook.
Yeah,
Don't be that much.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. But thanks again, bro. So I'm gonna reach out to you because I got something that I want to put. So I want you to come back to on my channel to talk about.
Okay, just let
Hmm.
me know.
All right,
Right.
definitely. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah. Excuse me, Sandog.
Yeah.
I can think of other societies that you don't want to be in. I mean, here's a city, Naples, Italy.
No, correct.
Look who controls that. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the series Gomorrah, which is an Italian series about the Camorra, which is not like the mafia, but the way that city society is structured and everything, and the way organized crime is took in control of everything, especially sanitation and whatnot, that tells you how broken certain societies are in certain countries. And like what he said about Nigeria, man, I remember there was a comedian. There's a Nigerian comedian, Clinton Drunk. He
Yeah.
did a parody of law enforcement dressed like a Nigerian cop. It was
So that's
funny,
all.
but it was straight to the point.
Yeah.
Excuse
And
me.
that's
You were
all I'm
saying?
saying. So shout out to the brother that just left. But again, if order to find justice for the average man has to understand his value. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Shout out to CG. Thank you. I appreciate it. The average man has to understand his value. So he can't obtain justice unless he understands his value. So think about it, right? So when we were going through slavery and colonialism, right? The
uh-huh.
Bible and all other they use the Bible, science, and so many other things to justify to themselves and those that they were oppressing that this is your lot in life. God has ordained this, right? So again,
Hmm.
same Europe, right? Hey, it's my divine right as king, right? Shout out to Prima Nocta, right? It's my divine right as king to come down and abuse you because God, you know what I'm saying? Because God has said so, right? So it's not until the average man began to realize his value to society where he began to be able to stand up for themselves, right? So think about it,
True.
right? Nat Turner to Santla Overture, there were many slave revolts, right? And so Frederick Douglass
Hmm.
says what? A slave is one who sits down, who waits for somebody to free him, right? And so for us in our history, globally, that wasn't the case. So even when you had black people who were slaves under the Zanji, right, under the Abbasid Empire, what did they do? They
Yeah.
revolted, right? So
Multiple times.
yeah, multiple times. So this is what I'm trying to say is that the average man isn't average. It is not until the average man identifies his value, right? Because, right now in the world, there's this whole thing that the only man that's valuable is your corporate god, with a six-figure job. But guess what? Sandog don't operate those gantries at the port, right? So a gantry is like a very, very, very large crane-like apparatus that takes the containers off the vessels, right?
Hmm.
Sand Dog doesn't operate the pilot that gets that vessel to berth. Sand Dog doesn't discharge those vessels. Sand Dog doesn't load those trucks. He doesn't stuff and de-stuff containers. He's not physically engaged in the customs clearance, right? I quote and unquote manage or give oversight, but do you know how many people bust their ass for you to conveniently go and get Tylenol off the shelf, right? Do you know how
And
many?
how many of those people suffer in the process? Because let's not forget how many of those people who are in those dangerous jobs don't have a lot of security, especially in certain parts of the world,
Yeah.
because
So correct.
they're
And
cheap
so
labor at the time.
yeah, exactly. So like I said, so now when you get into some countries, right? When you get into some
Hmm.
countries, because of the corruption at the port, that's why the goods will cost 3 to 4 times as much money because of the corruption at the port, right? So it doesn't take 2 weeks to clear a 20-foot container, right? So And so what is that guy doing? Right? By extending the logistics through corruption and their own personal fees and all of that other stuff, they're making it more expensive for the consumer, right? At the end, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody pays. The average man is not average. You are standing on his shoulders. He is the ground beneath your feet. He is the wind beneath your wings. And so at the end of the day, until the average man understands what his value is, all the people that all the people that we want to laugh at and call blue pill and stuff like that, man, if you lose these dudes, you are living in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, because at the end of the day, it's your average guy who wants good schools, clean streets, his kids to play stickball in the middle of the street, gated communities, all of that other stuff. It's those guys that are going to get up and do it, right? So, I
Yeah.
forgot what the name of the group was, right? What the Promise Keepers or whatever, hate them or love them, disagree with them or whatever, right? But those guys got up there talking about being men of Christ and enduring to the end, and we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna restore values and take our family back. You can laugh at them. You can say that they're unrealistic, but those are the men that make society work,
Or like the
right?
Detroit 300 in
Yeah,
Detroit, if you remember them.
because I'm gonna tell you right now,
Mm-hmm.
you take Andrew Tate and a 25-year-old sand dog, and I'm gonna tell you what you get. And Charles, you'll like this. You get the nightmare scenario in BVS. That's what you get. That's what you'll be in
Oh
Batman
yeah.
v Superman. For
Oh
those
yeah.
of you who are familiar,
And shout
you
out to
get a
CG for the $5 holla and the support.
yeah. This is like I said. This is what you get, and like I said, because outside outside of UAE, the majority of my adult life is in this is in the fucking dystopia, right? That's what I do. That's what I do for a living. So sad and most unfortunately, right? I'm getting older, right? A little bit
Yeah.
slower, so to speak. But the 25-year-old me in that environment, you would want no parts of it. Right. So this is what I'm trying to say is that when you have all of these kind of top dog men, nobody can tell them shit. I got my crew, you got your crew. You end up with Afghanistan, you end up with Iraq, you end up with Nigeria, you end up with Sudan, right?
Look at
When you
Mali,
yeah,
Northern Mali, Burkina Faso. No, not Northern. Sorry, Northern Mali, Niger, Southern Algeria, Southern Libya. Because
yeah,
remember, you got all the Tuaregs and the Amazigh, or like the Amazigh revolts in parts of North Africa.
yeah.
Everybody forgets like it. Oh, by the way, before I continue, in many traditional societies, Sandog, you don't just marry the family, you also marry their social structure, basically their clan or their tribe,
But that's yeah, exactly. But
or
that's yeah, exactly.
you represent them. You're a reflection of them. Like somebody said, a woman is a reflection of the man she's fucking or the man she's married to in some cases. So her job is to protect that man's honor and that family's reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And some people forget about that. Or like that's why certain places they're very tribalistic. Very much honor is important to them because there is no. I remember somebody once said this. The world is divided in two groups. One where you have faith in institutions, and one where people have faith in honor. And in places where there's lawlessness, it's about honor. Your word is your bond. Your reputation precedes you. That commands a lot of respect. And some people forget about that. It's not about law enforcement. Like you go to Afghanistan, you have to be affiliated with somebody who's powerful.
Mm.
I mean, like if you come from like take South Asia as a whole, you go to Pakistan or India, people are going to want to know who are you with, who are you affiliated with, who's your family, who's your clan. If you're somebody who's respectable, are you from a respectable group or an unrespected group? That's why you have things like the caste system. Think about that. Also, as far as like young men needing guidance and whatnot, we got to be careful who we teach. You know, I mean, yeah, some people look at guys like Andrew Tate. Others people look at this person, this, down, the third. Sometimes I wonder, like when somebody says they're a conservative, somebody's a liberal, I ask them, what does that mean exactly? What are you really about?
Yeah, but
What
I
does it
get it.
mean to be conservative?
Correct. But that's what
What
I'm
does it mean to
saying.
be liberal? Yeah,
What
go ahead.
I'm
Sorry.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that there are many paths to different things, right? And so again, what you would have to start to understand in the black world is fucking synergy, right? Get off this messianic shit of there's only one way to do things and some one guiding light is gonna come and and take us all this way. No, man,
Right.
it's you know what I'm saying? This is what I'm saying. These things are compartmentalized, right? So there's conservative shit that could help you out. There's liberal shit that can help you out, right? There's state stuff that can help you out. There's private stuff that can help you out, right? Again, so it's you can't you have to maximize the utility of opportunity for a desired outcome, right? So this whole, you know, sad, which is why I said from the beginning when I came to the space, when I hear a lot of black people, you should have started your own state, because if accommodation to you is nothing but selling out and kowtowing, well, I'm sorry for you, but the world of business and politics, right? There's a lot of accommodation that comes with it, right? So if that's something you cannot manage, then you need to go somewhere and establish your own, your own reality, right? So that's, like I said, I'm gonna go because my day here is getting started. I'll try to jump back on, if I can, if you guys are around. But just remember the shoulders that you stand on and what you have to protect, right? And then that is the average man, and it is time for the average man to actually learn his value in relationship to society. And that has been distorted through so many isms, right? Your racism, your sectarianisms, and other things that are designed, that have been designed to separate people, right? So that's a whole nother
Divide and
discussion.
conquer.
Yeah. So again, so the same thing,
Excuse me.
yeah, the same thing that you hear a lot of women say, know your worth, right? So for the average man, it is time to know your worth, and apply that in your negotiations across all sectors of your life, to include your personal relationships. And with that, Charles, said, uh, you know, Captain Jack, I'm out, but I'll, like I said, I'll be listening, and God willing, depending on how long y'all stay, I'll be able to make it back.
Woo! Thank you very much, folks.
Good, man. I hope
Hello,
I
my
didn't.
brother.
All right, I'm gonna shut things down. I'm gonna hit y'all guys probably tomorrow or later. Woo! Peace.
Later.